All right, y'all. We back in here. Leaving this a little bit late, but it is what it is. Back with another video, and this time it's going to be a match preview for the Chelsea Fulham game on Saturday. We'll see if they can the team can continue on the form that they showed last week in a very good win in game week 2 or away to West Ham rather. And we're going to start a little bit with some injury news, and then get on a little bit of a transfer news, and then obviously the match itself. So beginning with some of the injury news coming out of this week. The main news item of the week obviously is that no Cole Palmer in this match, ruled out for game week 3, and as well the England setup as well. So it looks like he's going to take a couple of weeks to heal up and refresh in order to come back hopefully ready to go after the international break. I'll get on to this game interests me even more because there is no Cole Palmer in a bit. But in terms of other injury news, obviously Colwell out for the season with his injury, but what the manager mentioned this week with Romeo, Lavia, and Benoit, Badiashile, it looks like they're probably not even going to be ready to go once we get back from the international break, which is really disappointing to see, especially for me in the immediate term. Benoit, Badiashile, we're thinner at center back than we are in midfield, so it matters to me for the next few matches and maybe even potentially this season, depending on what we do at center back. But Badiashile is going to play an important role if he can ever stay healthy. So we'll see about that. In terms of midfield, obviously, even though Caicedo was healthy, I think the manager said he only had one training session, and it was this last one between matches. So looks like he's getting a little bit of an extra rest. Maybe had a little problem. Who knows? But I'm glad to see that he'll be available for the match, because he's probably our most important player, along with Cole Palmer. So, but we do have some cover that I think I'm personally more confident in than we were last season with Dario Sugo. So even if he did have to, come off the bench in this match or miss the match at all, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, thankfully. Dario Sugo, I think, can step in and do a really good job if needed. Moving on to some of the transfer news, obviously Alejandro Garnacho sealed for Man United for about 40 million. It's probably too early to see him feature in this weekend's match, but a much needed signing at left wing, although maybe not my first choice obviously, but a solid choice hopefully nonetheless. In terms of another transfer target that Chelsea had, Xavi Simons off to Spurs. I think Xavi Simons is probably the better player to Garnacho at this point, and honestly, it may continue to be so moving forward. But in terms of the balance of the team this season, I think it's probably more important that the Garnacho deal was signed off on, if only because Xavi Simons, I don't think wouldn't have the potential to play as big of a role as the team as Garnacho would have the potential of being, because we have Cole Palmer to rely on in this team. Esteval hopefully can grow into that sort of role. João Pedro can play that 10 role. So I think Xavi Simons would probably struggle a little bit more than Garnacho in terms of making a sizable impact on this team. But Xavi Simons, I don't necessarily blame him for those reasons for choosing Spurs at this point. I mean, Spurs with Maddison being out for most of, if not all of the season, their transfer of Eberiche as being hijacked by Arsenal. I'm not happy that Xavi Simons decided to choose Spurs of all teams, but I don't necessarily blame him for doing so. And I guess the benefit of me making this video so late is Beuanotte from Brighton being sealed in the past few hours. Honestly, this one confuses me a little. I know it's probably just a response to Xavi Simons choosing Spurs, but I don't necessarily think we needed somebody like Beuanotte. I hope I am wrong in this case, but some of the details that have come out about the acquisition of him, it's not a transfer. It's not a permanent transfer. It's a dry loan with no option or obligation to buy. The only benefit being that if a bid comes in for Beuanotte, Chelsea have the right of first refusal. So hopefully, I mean, that comes to benefit Chelsea in this way, because if he came in necessarily and smashed it and did really well, the price for him drives up, with no set in stone price for him. Brighton could, the obsession with Brighton continues from Chelsea, but Brighton could really jack that price up if it comes to that. So we'll see. In terms of outgoings in the past week, it looks like Nkunku off to Milan, and it's sad to see that his time ended in such a disappointing way with the club. He showed a bit of brightness and ability in the Club World Cup, reminding people a little bit of the reason why he was signed by Chelsea in the first place. But starting his time off with the club injured, and then by the time he came back, Cole Palmer had staked his place as the number one driving and playmaking force of the team, kind of shoved Nkunku off to the side. And it's sad, because I think he actually has the ability to be a really good, if not close to a world-class player, and I think he'll get that opportunity at Milan. Although we'll see, they kind of play like a 5 at the back sort of system, so I'm not sure how that'll go for him. But yeah, it's an opportunity for him to get a fresh start, and I don't wish him bad or anything. I hope he does really well. I just wish it would have happened with Chelsea. And same thing with Nico Jackson, who looks like he's off on loan to Bayern. He'll get an opportunity to be the first attacking sub off the bench, backing up Harry Kane and Luis Diaz on the left wing, which I actually think he could have played that role for Chelsea if he was willing to make that move or switch positionally. I'm not sure that he was. Who knows? I'm not in the club, obviously, so I wouldn't know any better. But he'll get a really good opportunity at a top team to play very well. And Nico Jackson as a player, other than the most important attribute for a striker being finishing, that's probably the thing that he is the most inconsistent at. But his work rate and his ability to get out of tight spaces, his link-up play, his ball-carrying ability, all very, very good for a player of Nico Jackson's stature and quality. So we'll see. I mean, the only two real downsides is the way he ended his time at the club, with the red card, I think, against Newcastle last season, and then the Club World Cup, which actually helped our draw. But in any case, his petulance and then his wayward finishing are probably his two biggest downsides. But I think those things can be overcome, and he shows his quality week in, week out for Chelsea, and now hopefully for him for Bayern. So I wish him the best of luck. And yeah, moving on to the match itself, those two matches versus Fulham last season, the first one being, I believe it was on Boxing Day. It was late December, if I'm not mistaken. At that point, we were neck and neck with Liverpool in the table, if not ahead of them. I don't remember exactly. But, that 2-1 loss at home to Fulham kind of sent Chelsea into a bit of a spiral in terms of their consistency over the next couple of months. Soon after, Nico Jackson did get hurt, and Cole Palmer kind of struggled to find the back of the net in terms of his goal output. His chances, he was still creating a lot of chances, but it didn't really result in goals in the way we would have liked. And it kind of, that loss kind of signaled what would happen over the next few months. And then in turn, the reverse fixture, the away match, where Chelsea fell down 1-0, and then Tyreek George had, I think, his first Premier League goal for the club, if not first goal period, with that outside of the box strike, and then Neto coming back and that left-footed strike scoring as well, that led to a 2-1 win. That signaled the turnaround for the club, in all honesty, and them securing Champions League, beating Liverpool, who are champions at this point, but even still beating the champions, and securing Champions League football. I think those two matches really represented, and looking at those two showed the key points of the season. In terms of the match itself, I mean, Fulham don't really have much turnover, incoming or outgoings, of players. The reason I said earlier in the video why I was interested and a little bit excited to see the team without Cole Palmer is because, last week West Ham, they're a relegation candidate with a manager who's probably going to be might win the race for first sacked. And Fulham have a very good manager in a more established manager, let me say, in Marco Silva, who's in a better position, status wise in his club, and Fulham finishing solidly mid-table and probably doing so again this season provides a stiffer test for this side without Cole Palmer to see how well they can do. Getting on to my preferred lineup with Sanchez in net, Cucurella at left back, Tosin Adarabioyo keeping his place, as well as Chalobah. I think the interesting point being right back. I think I'm doing a little bit off the cuff, but I think it'll be, if I had to guess, it would be Reece James starting at right back. Although I could see Malo Gusto keeping his place with Esteval starting on the right wing. We'll get to that. And then Caicedo in midfield, as well as Enzo as his partner in midfield. And then the three in behind the striker will go with Pedro Neto, João Pedro, Esteval, however you pronounce it, and Liam Delap as the 9. I think there is a chance that Reece James steps in for Enzo Fernandez, with Gusto being the right back, providing the width on the right-hand side, allowing Esteval to play inside of him. I think that's probably how we'll line up. I kind of do want to see Gittins start for Pedro Neto on the left, and then maybe Pedro Neto on the right, and then one of João Pedro, Liam Delap starting, just because I think Gittins kind of deserves another chance to start and get minutes before Garnacho comes in after the international break, because there was a heavy investment into him, and I kind of want to see him get an early opportunity to show how good he can be. But in terms of my prediction, I think this being early in the season and players being motivated to stake their claims in the first 11 will lead to, I think, a 2-0 win, if I had to say. Although I wouldn't be surprised by 2-1, because I still think the defense is a little shaky. Although I'm not very threatened, in my opinion, by Muniz and Raul Jimenez at this point with Iwobi, and we'll see about Adama or Harry Wilson or whoever else. I think they have this young 18-year-old kid, I'm blanking on his name, that started their first 2 weeks for them. But yeah, I think it'll end up being a 2-0 win. Either a comfortable 2-0 or the Chelsea will go up 2-0 and then concede probably like a 70th minute goal to make it a 2-1 in 90 minutes. But I'm excited to see how the team does. It would be nice to replicate their performance of last week against stiffer competition. And yeah, I'll be back with a match review after the match. And we'll see how it goes. I appreciate y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.